If a man is afraid to repeat his past, particularly the one that he used to be aggressive and he would hurt people, he's still living in the past. He's projecting fears that this might happen again, that he might lose control. This fear might lead to a man being too passive, almost like a people pleaser, and avoiding conflicts and confrontation at all costs, even where it's required to keep other people accountable and call out their bullshit. Because part of our collective responsibility in human civilization is to keep each other accountable. But many people act withdrawn, disengaged, not interested, or scared of engaging with others, calling them out, because it's uncomfortable. Now that's spiritual bypass, baby. When a man is only focusing on good vibes only and dismissing the negative aspects of reality, because there is a fear that if he pays attention to the negative will grow even more, so he ignores it. What happens actually is the negative doesn't go away anywhere. It's still there. When a man avoids certain parts of reality, he creates even more resistance unconsciously. It's the paradox. It's like he wants to avoid the negative by not focusing on the negative, but by avoiding it and not addressing it, he allows it to grow even bigger, you know. And the fear of focusing on the negative can only work out when we excessively dwell on it and we don't let it go. But if we acknowledge the negative and we act accordingly, we change our, let's say, behavior or what is needed to be changed. That's it. It's resolved. We don't stay in the negative anymore. When a man is afraid of repeating his past, he can't be fully present in the moment because he's projecting these fears. And sometimes man might use excuses that he's afraid of his own power. But what actually is happening is this is a pattern of covert manipulation, not being comfortable or able to express needs directly. And in this case, the man is avoiding, let's say, confrontations in certain contexts because he fears the rejection, and he doesn't want to risk, let's say, being abandoned or the sense of belonging to a certain group in society. That bothers him, that thought or that scenario or potential. That's why he decides to say nothing and play the peaceful guy, the unshakable, the Zen guy. What actually is happening, whether he's aware of that or not, he is trying to get love, maintain a favorable situation for himself by not speaking up, by not objecting to, let's say, certain bullshit, coming from others, and by tolerating it. And when that happens, that gives signal to the others that it's okay. Like nobody is objecting, so I guess it's fine. Everyone's on the board. When a man doesn't speak up, he fears that he will lose validation from an individual or a group. And he will not be accepted anymore, and everyone wants to be loved. Instead of avoiding certain part of us, let's say the part of aggressiveness, aggressive part, it's important to connect with it. Because if we choose to avoid certain parts of us, well, guess what? We're abandoning ourselves too. Because we don't allow ourselves to fully express ourselves. And we're not a whole we're not whole. We're fragmented still, you know. We don't integrate these other parts that we disown and we push away. And if we avoid certain parts, like it's not going anywhere. It's like building even more resistance within us that burns inside, and like it creates like even stronger inner conflict between this part and the other, you know, because we don't see this part as valid. And over time, this part that we try to avoid or suppress will start to leak out more and more, indirectly, but it will make its presence in our life, whether we like it or not, through different reactions, triggers, and not always in the most gracious way. And then it will require even more effort to suppress this part, or try to control this part, or tame this part, to behave and not let's say provoke attention of other people too. If we have a part within us that we don't want to acknowledge and avoid it, try to avoid it, universe will keep bringing us more and more situations with people, circumstances that will trigger this part within us and will challenge us to and force us to start looking at this aspect of us to the point that it will be very difficult to ignore this. And yeah, it's like it might send people that will do some inappropriate shit to us, so that this part, let's say, of this own aggression will be triggered, and so we can be more aware of it and start to acknowledge and connect with it and understand it, why it's there, its needs, etc. Instead of staying passive every time and telling everyone else how peaceful you remained despite this situation, it might be a good idea often to acknowledge that there's often a reason why these type of situations and circumstances are brought to us, usually to increase our awareness. Let's not confuse passive disengagement and avoidance of conflict with peace, peacefulness, and high vibration. That's spiritual bypass. That's avoidance. Especially when the context requires it. When we act like harmless beings, that can invite, unfortunately, others and give signal to, hey, I can abuse this, I can manipulate with it, I can use this to my own advantage and to disadvantage of the others. Peace through strength. If a man wants to avoid confronting people like he did in the past, there is a belief that he won't be able to respond differently this time, that he will repeat the same thing. And behind this belief that he won't be able to respond differently is a belief that he is not good enough to be able to respond differently. And that generates fear. Behind the belief of I'm not good enough to be able to respond differently is the unmet need of self-love. So in order for this man to become more balanced version, more whole, more integrated, the good practice to start is to practice self-love, which means accepting every part. All the good, sexy ones and other ones that previously were perceived as less sexy, less desirable, more negative and that kind of stuff. No exceptions. When we give the gift to ourselves of self-love and self-validation, including the parts that we previously didn't acknowledge and avoided, what we now do is we allow these parts to be integrated more, and we allow these previously considered dark parts or negative parts to blend or mesh with the other, like the positive parts. And it's like energetic alchemy or transmutation. And when these parts are active and we don't push them away, let's say this negative part that we previously feared, and we welcome it, we invite it, we speak with it, and we acknowledge it, we honor it, we respect it, then this part eases down because it doesn't have to scream as desperately and loud anymore. It is being accepted as part of the family. It's like putting a child to sleep, like acknowledge what it has to say, its needs, and then naturally starts to calm down. Same with these parts. And once we are able to accept this part that previously was scary to us, it will start to react less. It will be less triggered in an uncontrollable way as it used to happen in the past. I mean, when that happens, that's like really the invitation to pay attention. That's desperation coming from that part. Nothing else. Desperation for love and understanding. What we can do is every time there's let's say a part that makes its presence felt within us, that maybe we're not necessarily biggest fans of it, or we haven't previously acknowledged it and don't recognize this part that well, what we can do is we can use a simple awareness exercise and just ask what's behind it. You know, use this awareness like layer by layer. Go one layer at the same time. It's like once the, let's say, surface level of this part or reaction expresses itself, then we can ask what's behind it. And then when that is clear, then we ask again, and what's behind that? Essentially what we do in this exercise is we are looking for meanings in each of these layers. Meanings, or in other words, what does that tell about me? Yeah? And I already give the example of fear of being aggressive, or aggressive part, aggression, channeling aggression. Behind that was the belief that man won't be able to change and like respond differently. And behind that is, if there is a belief that I won't be able to respond differently, then there is a belief that I'm not good enough to be able to respond differently. And then it's like, if there is a belief, well, I'm not good enough, then yeah, the opposite side of the I'm not good enough is the need for love, practicing self-love. So this is how we can go layer by layer deeper and have an honest conversation with ourselves. If a man accepts certain parts of himself but not others, he's not a balanced man. And why people do this is that there is a perception, or they have experienced in the past, that when they express, usually in the childhood, let's say certain character traits, emotions, and they got, let's say, rejected or punished or shamed, or that led to certain disadvantages or negative consequences, that led them to the conclusion or assumption that, hey, this is not safe for me to keep doing this. Like, I have to play a different mask, an inauthentic mask. But how authentic is that? It's not. Living in a society full of fake ones.